All right, well, if you're listening to this, welcome back for another episode of A Breath of Fresh Football. Honestly, I don't even know what number we're on. I think we're on 15, but I could be wrong. But how you doing, Logan?
I'm fantastic, sir, and yourself? I'm actually eating dinner right now. I'm working. So if you guys hear me chewing, I am sorry, but I haven't eaten all day and I'm starving.
I feel that. But yeah, so again, if you're listening, we're sorry we couldn't get an episode on our thoughts on week one. But hey, we got this episode, so we're gonna do week one and week two, and just talk about some of the news that has happened the last 2 weeks since the last time we recorded.
Okay, well, we'll get straight into it. How about Ravens Nation, baby?
Well, I bet you weren't feeling like that after the week one loss to the Raiders.
I was not, but we come back and we beat the Chiefs by 1 point.
Yeah. Speaking of that game, it's actually on NFL Network right now. I pulled it up because I wanted to see what they were talking about news wise, but apparently they're playing the Chiefs Ravens game right now.
Good, because it was a great game.
Yeah, I wish I could say I watched it all the way through, but I went to sleep, man. Waking up, so I mean, as the listener, hopefully the listeners know, I'm a teacher, and man, when it gets to 9-10 o'clock, I can barely stay up, and so I unfortunately fell asleep both last night's Monday night game and Sunday night's game. I went to bed. I laid on the couch and I fell asleep during the Thursday night game, and I woke up just as the game was ending. So when the Redskins ended up winning that game, I believe so.
So this is the first time Lamar Jackson's ever beaten Pat Mahomes. He's 1-3 against Mahomes. And this is Pat Mahomes' first loss in the month of September.
Yeah, I did see that. I think he also threw his first interception.
Mm-hmm. All I'm saying is Ravens, baby.
But hey, why are we spending our time talking about a 1-1 Ravens team when we got a 2-0 Cardinals team?
I'm pretty sure the Cardinals lost, buddy, didn't they?
No, we won. We're 2-0. We barely beat the Vikings. The Vikings missed a field goal to end the game.
That's right. I'm thinking of the Seahawks.
Yeah, the Seahawks lost in overtime.
Okay, we'll go into that really quick. Kyler Murray's looking really good this year.
He is. I think he's got 9 touchdowns so far in 2 games. Again, he did throw 2 picks on was it Sunday, but he threw for 400 yards, and I don't know what was the exact number of passes he threw, but both games so far, I mean, obviously I haven't really got to sit down and watch them because I don't have a streaming service to watch football games on, so can't really watch them. But from what I've gathered is they've been heavily passing the ball and not really running the ball. So I really hope they establish the run soon because, I mean, we can't throw the ball as much as we did in the first 2 weeks. Like, I mean, we gotta have a run game if we want to be successful, a good team.
I can agree with that. That was a good game, though. Close game. It was a shootout the entire game.
Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed. I thought we would just steamroll the Vikings. But, we did come out with the win. And sometimes you have to win games like this. When it comes down to the wire, you got to take the win when, even if, the other team coughed the game up, And the thing was, so I listened to Arizona podcast, of course, and what they talked about was, again, it comes down to Cliff Kingsbury's play calling because it got to, Arizona was in a position, If they would have got 2 first downs, they would have put the game away. But instead of that, they what was it? They tried running the ball or some, and then which got stopped. Or no, Kyler Murray ran the ball, but he ran out of bounds, which I don't know why he did that. And then the next 2 downs were incompletions, and then it was like 4th down or whatever. Or the next 3 was incompletions or some, or next 2. So it was down to 4th down, and again that put the Vikings in a situation where they drove down the field and could have won that game, but of course their kicker did miss the field goal. So,
but I can also see Kyler Murray stepping out of bounds. It's just one of those, you're in the moment, you don't think. I can get that.
I get it, but at the same time, if you want to, you got to know the situation. You can't be like Tom Brady and forget it's 4th down or 3rd down, 4th down.
You talk smack on Tom Brady, bro. He's still undefeated too.
Yep. So, speaking of running backs, some news. The Ravens, man, they signed every running back on the market.
Yeah, and our the guy that was already on our team, No, we're gonna call him Ty because I can't think of his first name. Williams was actually the best one out of all of them. Latavius Murray though did not bad. He did have a touchdown.
Yeah, I think Murray was a good signing, but it brings me to the question of Le'Veon Bell. He hasn't even been activated yet. Like, what happened to Bell? He went from being one of the best backs in the league, and then all of a sudden, like, he's on a practice squad roster.
My buddy, actually, one of my friends was talking to me about that, and he's like, "Man, why aren't they using Le'Veon Bell? Why is he on the practice squad?" We don't know. I mean, we don't know what kind of shape he's in. We don't know how he looks. We're not NFL coaches, so we don't know. He could be out of shape, or they're waiting to use him.
Or honestly, I think they have him just in case another running back gets hurt. I mean,
the Ravens have 15 players on IR.
That is crazy.
But we still took out the Chiefs without our best player. Jason Oweah was the key to beating the Chiefs. We traded the 31st, or let me phrase that. We obtained the 31st overall pick from the Orlando Brown Jr. trade to get Jason Oweah, and Jason Oweah is the reason we beat Chiefs.
Yeah, that's awesome. But so going back to your week 1 loss to the Raiders, there is no other NFL quarterback that has more game-winning drives since 2015 than Derek Carr. His 24 are 3 more than any other QB. What was your thoughts on your week 1 loss?
It hurt. It hurt. But I mean, I can understand. I mean, now that running back, we're a run-heavy first team. And, Lamar and those running backs don't have chemistry. Our line wasn't looking very good. Week 2, we shaped it up. Alexander Ueva, first week, I'm like, dude, let's cut this guy. Get rid of him. And then week 2, he actually impressed. He did really good. Moved him over left tackle. Ronnie Stanley's still out. We don't know how long he's going to be out for. So I think Alexander Ueva actually did very good. So hopefully we continue this. The line continues to grow, and we keep winning football games.
Yeah, but it's kind of, it's kind of crazy because, when the Ravens signed Murray, Freeman, and Bell, those 3 plus Lamar, they had 4 players with 1,000-yard seasons, which is kind of crazy. But going back to another something I just wanted to touch base a little bit. Did you watch that Cam Newton video I sent you about why he was released from the Patriots?
I did not. I honestly forgot about it. But explain it to me.
So I actually watched it again right before we recorded, but it was interesting. He of course he got to talk about it a little bit, and I forgot what the first part of the video was. It was just like him talking, but like they talked about in the video he said, he was like, if the Patriots would have came to me and was like, hey, we're giving the ball to Mac, but we want you to be everything that you are and even more and be the number 2 quarterback, he would have did it. But he went into talk about why he thinks they released them, because, and his explanation was, he said the reason they released him is because if you were Mac Jones, you wouldn't want Cam Newton as your backup, because Cam Newton's gonna do everything he's gonna do everything he can do to get that starting job back. And they just thought with the Mac having that pressure or whatever. So he talked about that a little bit, and he also, of course, the interviewer asked him. He was like, "So has Mac Jones was he teaching you the playbook?" And he ended up saying no. He thought that was crazy, but something else. Okay, so going back to why they released him, he said Cam Newton being on your team is a distraction. He said that. The reason is because people want to know, why does Cam Newton talk that way? Why is his hair that way? And then just him, who he is as a former, went to the Super Bowl. Did he win the Heisman? He won the national championship. I know that.
I'm
He
pretty
did
sure
win the
Cam
Heisman.
Newton did win the Heisman.
Yeah, so he's that type of player. He just felt like he would have. They felt like he would have been a distraction because of all the media that he does get at times. So I thought that was interesting, and it was kind of cool just to get a deep dive into why he thinks he got released and everything. So, but it was funny. So speaking of week 1 and week 2, the funniest stat after week 1 was the Texans were 1-0. The Colts, Titans, and Jags were all 0-1.
Yeah, I was very surprised for not the Colts, the Titans to lose week 1, and how badly they lost.
Well, the Titans beat the Jaguars. Or are we talking about the Colts?
Week 1, the Titans lost. I can't remember.
Oh, the Titans. Yeah, the Titans lost to the Cardinals. Yeah. I was really surprised about that too. Man, we beat them pretty badly, but and that's why, like, after that win, I'm like, holy cow, maybe we have a good team. And then we barely beat the Titans. Now, for week 3, we have the Jaguars, and the Jaguars are looking like a mess. And it's funny because the USC job opened up, and everyone's, wanting to label Urban Meyer jumping from the NFL back to college football because that's where he's comfortable. And some of the stuff I'm hearing about how he's not translating to the NFL game well, and he's getting into it with his assistant coaches, and his team's apparently not bought into him or whatever. And I don't know. I really hope he doesn't give up on the NFL just yet, because I think once he adapts to it and does whatever. Something else I heard was that he was yelling too much. And I get it, at the college level, they probably yell at the kids more because they can, and I get why these professionals are upset about it because, again, they're professionals, and they don't want to be yelled at. I mean, no one wants to be yelled at their job all the time, if that makes sense. So I get it if that is the case. Again, we're not in the locker room, so I don't know, and we're not on the field, so I don't know if that's actually going on there, but that's just some clips and articles and other things I've heard. So, but again, I really hope he doesn't give up on the NFL just yet. But man, I knew the Jaguars weren't going to be good, but man, they haven't looked good, and Trevor Lawrence has not looked good either.
Well, yeah. I'm not gonna say much about that because you guys already know my thoughts on Trevor Lawrence. I didn't think Trevor Lawrence was gonna be as great as everyone said. But a surprising week 1, the Packers.
Yeah, the Packers, man, they
Let me read
put
you.
the Saints and they just look terrible.
Let
And then
me.
even Jordan Love got his first action of his career. So that was interesting to see. And it was funny after that loss, everyone was joking around saying, "What if Aaron Rodgers came back just to sabotage the team?" Which is funny. But in the latest interview he had, he did talk about this offseason and um, there was tension and there was a point where he didn't think he would play. He did think about retirement. He also, there was tension, of course. So his thought process was, well, you drafted my replacement, just let him play, or whatever. Like he like trade me, or he did think about retirement. So I'm glad he didn't retire because Aaron Rodgers is a great player, and we'll see what he does in his final year with the Packers, and then I'm hoping he doesn't put the cleats up just yet. I still think it could be a Peyton Manning type thing where he goes somewhere else. The obvious choice is everyone wants to say is the Broncos, of course. But Aaron Rodgers could have a similar, just like him, Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, go to another team, win a Super Bowl, play for a couple years, and then hang it up.
Let me read you his stats from that game. So 15 completions, 28 attempts, 133 yards, and 2 interceptions. That's no touchdowns.
That's crazy. But speaking of Aaron Rodgers, did you see his Week 2 performance last night?
I did.
I had it's so funny. So I'm in 4 different fantasy leagues,
Yeah,
which
me
is
too.
which is way too many for me right now. Because usually I'm in like 2. Because we would usually like have a league together with all my friends, and then I would be with some Twitter buddies that I know. So I was always be in like 2 leagues or whatever. But this year I'm in 4, and I have Jones. Is it Aaron Jones and 2 of them? And man, he went off. I think in one of the leagues he had like 40 points for me. I was like, holy cow! And I think I ended up coming back and winning, winning that week matchup in that one league. But man,
Wow.
the Packers had a great game yesterday.
They did. Aaron Rodgers looking like his MVP caliber yesterday.
Yeah, very much. Again, I think the leading, again, way too early, but I think the leading MVP talk right now is around Kyler Murray because, I mean, 9 touchdowns, 2 games. It's
Yes,
pretty impressive.
but Kyler Murray always starts out as a heavy hitter and then just falls down.
Well, okay, so that's a good point. It's not Kyler Murray. I think it's Cliff Kingsbury. And they talked about it on the podcast I listened to. At all his teams, they always start off hot and then they go down. Because at Texas Tech in his like 3 of his years, I forgot what years it was. I wish I would have took some notes when I was listening to it. But all 3 years, they started off hot, and then they finished off bad. In his final year at Texas Tech, he started off, what was it? He lost the last 8 games, or the last 6 of the last 8 games, or whatever. Something crazy. Like, he had such a bad losing streak at the end. And then in his first year in the NFL with the Cardinals, he ended up winning like the first 3 out of the first 4, or 3 out of the first 6 games or whatever. And then he finished like 3-15 or whatever it was after that first year. And then last year, I mean, we had 6 wins going into the first 8 weeks, and we finished 8-8. So, like, that's the scary part is, again, like, of course, at the beginning of the podcast, I was talking about, man, I'm so excited to be 2-0. The Cardinals are looking good right now. But, man, Cliff Kingsbury's resume with long seasons has not been well. And the worst part is we have another week this season. So, we may not finish 8-8. We could be 8-9. And he'll probably get canned after that if that happens, especially with everyone we brought in. But I was glad to see that AJ Green got a touchdown.
Yes,
So
I can get behind that. I love AJ Green.
yeah, but going back to the Packers game week 1, did you see? I don't know if you watched it, but did you see Jameis Winston's interview after that game?
I did not.
Oh my God, you're missing some great content. I don't know what they were talking about. They were talking about the win or whatever, and he tried to bring up a point that his trainer said, and as the interview was going, he was like, "Wait, what did my trainer say?" And he couldn't remember. And then he just talked about how they were prepared or whatever, and it just killed me. It was so funny. If I had my laptop right now, I would play the clip so the listeners could listen to it. But Jameis Winston, man, he, like I said, we said before the season, yeah, it was hoping he would stay on fire. And like week 1, man, like we talked about, man, he came out, he had 5 touchdowns. He beat the Packers, had a great game. Everyone's thinking, my God, Jameis Winston's back. And then can we talk about how he shit this bed this past week, going 11 for 22, and I don't know if he even had a touchdown. I don't know what his final stat line was, but man.
And it
And
was against the Panthers.
I'm telling you, Matt Rule is a good coach. Man, he turned around that Baylor team in college. He's turning around this Panthers team. They got Joe Brady at offensive coordinator. They have a sneaky good team. And Sam Darnold, man, I think his first 2 games he's had 300 yards. I could be wrong, but man, he has looked really good.
Him and Christian McCaffrey have been working very well together.
Yeah. Again, with Caffrey, it comes down to being healthy. So hopefully he stays healthy. But
yeah, for sure. Let's talk about another good performance, Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is the Bengals' first round pick.
Oh yeah,
this
yeah.
year. During preseason training camp, was dropping a lot of balls, a lot easy catches. Dude's looking really good. He's catching everything that's coming his way now.
I believe, I could be wrong, but after that first game, I think the first thing Joe Burrow said when he got to the interview stand or whatever it was, or press conference, I think he said, and I thought Jamar Chase couldn't catch balls or whatever, just like trying to roast all the people that were concerned about him not catching the ball in preseason and all that jazz. So that's the funniest part. Joe Burrow, man, he's a funny guy.
Well, and you gotta be classy. I mean, he's classy about it, and he protected his teammate. Also, someone who showed some class, going back to your Cardinals, J.J. Watt. Dalvin Cook went down with an injury. J.J. Watt walked over there and just talked to him and see if he needed anything, how he was doing, and checked on him. You don't see that much nowadays.
J.J. Watt is such a great guy. Like, he may not be the performer he was, a few years ago when he was the best defensive player in the NFL. But, man, he is a great locker room presence. So I'm glad he's on my team, and I get to enjoy him. If they don't cut him this offseason, again,
there's no
who knows
way
how he's going to perform this season. But he's here for 2 years, so I get to enjoy him for 2 years. So
maybe longer.
Yeah. But going back to your Ravens Raiders game, there was some that Monday night totaled 15.29 million viewers, making it the most watched Monday Night Football Week 1 game since 2013. And then the Manny cast, which this was a separate ESPN showing that featured Eli and Peyton, where they were just talking during the game. It was like, they had their normal broadcast, which the ESPN announcers are, and then they had one for Eli and Payne. And that totaled $800,000, which is a little less than you would think, with the total being $15 million. But that's only because ESPN didn't really broadcast. They didn't tell anyone about it because, again, they're wanting all the viewers to watch their main, broadcast, and which is kind of funny because, again, at the same time, with them doing both types of broadcasts, they're really competing against themselves for the viewers. So,
Yeah. Also, can we talk about how good Matthew Stafford is looking on the Rams right now?
I could have told you that before the season, man.
I know.
I knew
we
Matt
have said
Stafford
that.
was good for the Lions. He just had crappy teams. He had no one around him.
Yeah. Well, look
And
at Jared Goff right now. The only person he's been thrown to is T.J. Hawkinson.
which you should. Man, talking about TJ right now and being an Iowa tight end, can we talk about Sam Laporta right now? He's the leading receiver for the Iowa Hawkeyes. The Hawkeyes are 3-0. They're looking like the best team in the Big 12 right now. Their quarterback is he's kind of not really the greatest guy. But Sam's getting he's getting all the targets, he's getting all the touches, and I don't know where he's projected to get drafted this year, but it's kind of awesome.
Is he going in the draft this year?
Probably. He's supposed to be the next Iowa tight end to get drafted. So I imagine, and with him being the leading receiver for the Hawkeyes right now, I can't see why he would not go, unless he wants to finish his degree, which I could very well see. Sam's a great guy, smart guy, and it was awesome seeing. I'm actually getting ready to buy me a Sam Laporta jersey. I'm ordering a Iowa Hawkeyes jersey that has his name on it because it's cool, and he could potentially be the first guy to get drafted out of the high school I went to. So,
yeah. And he's a hard worker, very hard worker too. Can't forget that. Dude was, National Honor Society and, all state. And then just honestly, just a down to earth, nice person.
He was also a great basketball player. I think he did track, man. He used to, back in the day when he was little, play baseball. If he would have stayed with that, I'm sure he would have been great with that too. But let's go on and talk about some first round quarterbacks in their NFL debuts. So Trevor Lawrence, of course, he threw for 332 yards, 3 TDs, but 3 interceptions. Like we said, Trevor Lawrence really hasn't looked good. Again, his team around him isn't very good.
But also, it's his first NFL game too.
First NFL game, and it's his coach's first NFL game. So, but going to Zach Wilson, man, he had 258 yards, 2 TDs, 1 interception. But man, I don't know if he saw his stat line from this past week against the Patriots, which, again, it's against the Patriots. The Patriots always make rookie quarterbacks look terrible. He had 4 picks this past week.
After seeing the Patriots, I am very I don't think my prediction for the Patriots is going to be very accurate.
How did the Patriots do this week? Didn't they lose to the Dolphins?
No, they won.
Oh, they won?
They beat, yeah, Tua. Speaking of that game, Tua was out in like the first quarter.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. He got hurt. Again, I think that's the hip. But going back to the Patriots, Logan, I told you. I was like, Logan, they brought in so many guys, I would not count them out. Again, I think I had the Patriots at 9-8. So I had them a little over 500. So this 2-0 start is a little surprising for me. I will say that. But, man, I told you. They brought in a lot of people. They got their quarterback. They got Mac Jones they wanted. And speaking of Mac Jones, week 1, he had 281 yards and 1 TD. And then the other 2 first-round quarterbacks, Trey Lance, had 1 pass. It was in the red zone, so they took Jimmy G out, put him in. So a 5-yard pass for a touchdown. So Trey Lance, the 49ers are doing kind of a little bit of a 2 QB system. And then Justin Fields also, he came in. He got I believe only a pass or two for 10 yards and also ran it in. So again, like the 49ers, the Bears are kind of running a little. They have packages where Justin Fields didn't come in. But Andy Dalton did get hurt this past week, so Justin Fields did get more playing time, and he really didn't look too well. And I think it's just, I know he got hurt, so that Justin Fields got jumped, threw into the game. But like again, it just feels like they're rushing it a little bit. But the coaches have said he has looked really impressive, and he's way ahead where they expected him to be. Expected for him to be where he is right now, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, well, and also look how well a lot of these young quarterbacks strive by sitting out a year.
yeah, well, going back to Patrick Mahomes being the last one to really do that, it was funny because after that first training camp with after they got Hill at the same time they got Mahomes, and we talked about this before, but Hill was just like, man, this is the guy you guys drafted, man. He's terrible or whatever. He sat out a year, did the work he needed to do in the off season, and Patrick Mahomes again is must watch TV. So, but another little stat before the Thursday night game last Thursday, Terry, I don't know how you say his last name, McLaurin or whatever. It was his 10th game with a different starting QB, and he's only played in 31 career games.
Yeah,
Isn't that crazy?
and he still had a phenomenal game though.
Oh yeah, man, he's a good receiver, and man, Taylor Heineke, man, another great game by him. We talked about it when he had that his postseason start last year, and threw for 300 yards, almost beat the Super Bowl champions. Again, people forget that. If he would have won that game, who knows what would have changed? And I think it was funny. I think one of the podcasts I listened to actually talked about this, but they were like, if Taylor is it? I don't know, Taylor Heineke. If he would have won that game and beat the Buccaneers, that changes everything that happened last year. Because Aaron Rodgers, with his MVP season, probably ends up going to the Super Bowl in the NFC if the Buccaneers lost. So if he goes to the Super Bowl and say he wins or loses, does he act the way he acted this offseason? So again, that changes the whole landscape in the NFL right now.
It does. It does. The NFL, I mean, it's week 2, dude, and there's been a lot of phenomenal games, a lot of close games this year.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I fell asleep Thursday night, Sunday night, and Monday night. And all 3 games ended up being really good. I mean, the Packers kind of just, they beat the Lions, but Aaron Rodgers had a great performance. Of course, I fell asleep because I thought the Chiefs would beat the Ravens, and Ravens end up winning. I woke up at in the middle of the night. It was like 3 a.m. And I was like, I need to check the score, see what it was. And you could imagine my eyes squinting at 3 a.m. And I'm like, what? Ravens won? What? How'd that happen? Man, I missed a great game. And again, like I said,
Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Sorry, I won that game.
But speaking of a former Ravens, as we're talking about the Ravens right now, how about Tyrod Taylor, man? He was with the Bills. He went to a Pro Bowl. He got benched for Nathan Peterman, but still led the Bills to the first playoff since '99. Then he goes to the Browns. He gets hurt, and then gets benched for Baker Mayfield. Goes to the Chargers. Doctor pretty much punctures his lung, and he loses his starting job. And then he goes to the Texans. He wins QB1 because, with the Deshaun Watson stuff. But then he gets hurt again. Man.
Yeah, I feel for the guy. He's a great dude. It seems like nothing ever goes that guy's way.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel for him. And the Texans ended up drafting a quarterback, so I think it's David Mills or whatever. He's getting to play, but again, the Texans, they're just a mess right now. But I really hope Tyrod gets to come back and gets to play. Man, he deserves it. With everything he's gone through. And speaking of him, he did get ruled out for Thursday night's game. So Texans rookie quarterback Davis Mills will start Thursday night versus Panthers.
Oh, and that defense is looking good.
Yeah, the Panthers are. Are we talking about the Texans or the Panthers?
The Panthers.
Oh yeah, I don't expect David Mills to do well. He wasn't a bad quarterback in college, but they have a good team right now. But before we talk about more about the last 2 weeks, there was some little things from Lane Kiffin I read, and he talked about he had some Lane Kiffin, so that's the head coach for Ole Miss. He talked about some valuable insight on Nick Saban because he used to coach with Nick Saban. And he said Nick Saban likes these nuts jokes. And it says it started with Marlon Humphrey, who introduced Saban to the jokes, and Saban took it from there. These nuts are a process.
Good old Marlon Humphrey.
Yeah. But so another reason why I wanted to talk about Lane Kiffin is because there was some I sent you today, but Lane Kiffin follows one person on Instagram. And guess who it is?
Marlon Humphrey.
Arch Manning. He's shooting his shot, trying to get Peyton Manning's nephew to come to Ole Miss.
Wow.
Which Eli Manning went to Ole Miss, and their dad, I think, went to Ole Miss, and their other brother went to Ole Miss? I think Peyton was the only one that went to Tennessee, which I don't know the whole story about. I should probably look that up. Maybe I'll get that on next week's podcast, or if we end up recording later this week. But I should look into that story of why he ended up going to Tennessee over going to Ole Miss, because I think they're from Mississippi. I could be wrong on that. I wish we had a research team that could research.
Yeah, you are a research team.
Yeah, but I just thought that was interesting. He's shooting his shot, trying to get him to come to Ole Miss. So,
yep. Well, I mean that I really talked about everything I want to talk about this week. There's not really much else that's happened that we haven't talked about.
let's just look over the scores. Just see if there's anything that surprises us. Redskins won. That was that close game Thursday night. Bears barely beat the Bengals. So, again, I don't think the Bears are that good, but I think the Bengals are better than what they are. Browns beat the Texans, of course. Rams beat the Colts. Let's talk about the Colts being 0-2, man. Totally opposite of our predictions right now.
Yeah. I honestly don't know. I really don't. I mean, they don't look bad. That's the problem. I mean, they don't look awful.
Well, what hurt this past week was, of course, Carson Wentz sprained both his ankles, so he got hurt. And then Jacob Easton came in. His first pass, or second pass, there was an interception that sealed the game for the Rams, pretty much. So that's what really hurt them. So again, I'm not really. I think Wentz is still. Again, if he stays healthy, I think he can do pretty well, but I am a little surprised they're 0-2. The Bills won. They're 2-0, of course. No surprise
let's
there.
talk about the Bills losing week 1 to the Steelers.
Oh, the Bills did lose? They did. I forgot about that.
They lost.
I was shocked
bad.
about that. Yeah. Which Ben Rosenberg, based on looking at the stats, he doesn't seem like he's been too good this year. It doesn't look like Najee Harris has been all right, but I don't think the Steelers are a great team. But so it was a little surprising to see the Bills lose, and I can't say neither one of us predicted that. So
Yeah, I honestly just don't know. I didn't know if they had a bad week or what.
yeah, again, it's the first game of the season, so. But yeah, the Patriots are 2-0, so I'm a little surprised about that. With them beating the Jets this past week, but yeah, going back to Zach Wilson, 19 for 33, 210 yards and 4 interceptions with 4 sacks. It was a rough day for him. So,
Well, I have a hot take time. Hot take.
yep.
Zach Wilson turns it around and becomes Offensive Rookie of the Year.
I'm trying to think. I don't know. Jamar Chase, man. I think
Jamar Chase and Mac Jones. But I think Zach Wilson turns around and gets Offensive Rookie of the Year.
I think he'll turn it around. I don't think this past week is an indicator of what his season's gonna be like. But
I mean, if
man,
you look, he was running for his life.
Yeah. But going back to the 49ers have a lot of injured players, but they are 2-0 too. So the only team in the NFC West right now that has a loss is the Seahawks. Because the Rams are 2-0, the Cardinals are 2-0, 49ers are 2-0, and the Seahawks are 1-1 with their loss in overtime, which they had the lead and then they gave it up. So it was a surprise loss for them, at least from my point of view. Raiders, again, we talked about, are 2-0. So, again, like our Patriots predictions, our Colts predictions were a little off. The Raiders are
a lot of
wrong.
Our predictions are off.
Again, we are not professionals, as you see. This is why we're not on the broadcast. This is why we do our own thing. But going back to Jameis Winston, so I'm looking at his stats now. He was 11 for 22 for 111 yards, man. He looked bad. Their run game couldn't get going. Alvin only had 8 carries for 5 yards. Jameis Winston had the most rushing yards for them this past week with 19 yards and a rushing touchdown. He had 2 interceptions to go with that 11 for 22. It just seems like the Saints they didn't prepare for the Panthers, and the Panthers over-prepared for them. Sam Darnold had 305 yards, man. And
yeah, they thought it was going to be an easy blow-by win.
Well, they beat the Packers week 1, so I could see why they thought that. But, man, again, the Broncos, 2-0. Can't say I expected that.
Teddy Bridgewater looking really good.
I was about to say that, man. And we talked about it, and like I said, I wasn't really a believer in Teddy Bridgewater. But, man, this past week, 328 yards, 2 TDs. I mean, he's proven me wrong, man. And the Broncos, like I said, are 2-0 again. But the Buccaneers, man, they're looking good. The Falcons just look like a mess. Oh, I didn't even realize this when I was looking at it, but apparently Josh Rosen got to play this past week, and he was 0 for 2 though. So
if you guys have listened, though, we are big Josh Rosen fans. I mean, the guy just kind of got dealt a crappy hand in his life.
Yeah. So
in the NFL. So I honestly hope one day he just comes in and he's the next Tom Brady.
Now going to the Cowboys, they're 1-1, and they almost beat the Buccaneers week 1, and Dak Prescott's just picking up where he left off. Kellen Moore, man, he's the offensive coordinator, former Boise State quarterback. He played in the NFL for a few years with the Lions and Cowboys, and man, he is an offensive genius. And I think he did, or the Eagles wanted to interview him, or he did interview for the Eagles job this past offseason. I think he's a future head coach. And based on the offense he's brought with the Cowboys, since he's been offense coordinator with Dak Prescott as the quarterback. So that's a little start. If he has like Andy Dalton or who they the Cowboys had like 8 quarterbacks play last year or whatever. So of course there was a lot of games where their offense wasn't very good, but it was only because they had a lot of different quarterbacks. But with Dak Prescott, and if Kellen Moore has a good quarterback, I think I think he's a future NFL head coach. But the Chargers are 1-1. Justin.
Hey, I'm back.
Yeah, a little malfunction, listeners. I don't know what happened. But what was the last thing you heard, Logan?
Last thing I honestly remember was Josh Rosen.
Oh man, that was the Falcons game.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, so I went in and talked about the Cowboys Chargers game. So the listeners probably listened to a little bit, I guess. Or no, the recording stopped, I guess.
No. I remember you talking slightly about the Chargers Cowboys.
Yeah, so I talked about how Kellen Moore, I think, is a future NFL head coach.
Oh, for sure.
Man, he's brought a great offense to the Cowboys, so I think he's Chargers. Herbert had a great week, but I was mildly surprised they lost the Cowboys. But going into the Titans Seahawks game, Titans were almost 0-2, but the Seahawks coughed up the game. Tannehill had a great game. He had 347 passing yards. Derrick Henry was a monster, 35 carries for 182 yards.
And speaking of that, can we talk about
passing or receiving yards?
Real quick, can we talk about how the Cardinals did neutralize Derrick Henry in Week 1?
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about a little earlier, they annihilated the Titans. I'm going back to look at the stats. Kyler Murray was 21 of 32 with 4 TDs, 1 interception. Trying to look here. Our run game wasn't the greatest, but it was actually pretty well. 33 carries for 136 yards.
Not bad.
Hopkins is off to a great start of the year. Christian Kirk got some TDs.
Christian Kirk has come a long way.
Yeah, well, he's our 3rd or 4th receiver, so he's getting all the, whenever Hopkins or Green is covered, then that leaves Kirk is probably playing the slot, I would imagine.
And hang on, here's this.
More.
Larry Fitzgerald could still come back.
Yeah, I don't know if he will, especially with it being already week 2.
But he has officially retired, so it's still a possibility.
It's a possibility, but from my understanding is Larry Fitzgerald really isn't the guy that wanted to announce his retirement. He kind of just wanted to go into the sunset. So what I believe is going to happen is we're not going to hear anything. And then all of a sudden someone's going to check or someone's going to leak a report that he filled out his retirement papers and then he retired from the NFL or whatever. So I think that's what's going to happen. But who knows? Maybe he's leaving the door open. Maybe he wants to take a year off. And I
mean, it's Larry Fitzgerald. The Cardinals organization would 100% welcome that guy back with open arms.
Yeah, for sure. So, but yeah, so I think I'm looking at the week 1 games real quick. We kind of talked about everything. Let's see, just looking it over.
Yeah, guys, I'm going to be honest. We weren't really prepared this week.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're never really prepared. We just think about, we go through the stuff we send each other on Twitter, Instagram, and then we just talk about things. So
just really not much to talk about.
Yeah, so I think that is really all. One thing I wanted to just briefly, for those who are college football fans, the games this year, from what I've noticed, there is not a standout great team right now. I will say, like I was talking about earlier, Iowa right now is 3-0. They beat Iowa State, which was highly ranked. So they're looking like the best team right now. Of course, Alabama's always good. but they barely beat Florida, which I thought was really interesting this past week. They only won 31-29.
And isn't
Notre
Oklahoma doing
Dame,
pretty good?
what'd you say?
Oklahoma? Aren't they pretty good this year?
They're ranked third, but their wins have not been very good. So I'll go over it real quick. They only beat Nebraska 23-16, which this is a Nebraska team that Illinois beat and Oklahoma barely beat.
And last week we learned how Kyle feels about Illinois.
Yeah, after going to that game and them losing. But the week before, they played West Carolina. They won 76-0, which that's not even a real game. West Carolina, that's a fake team.
Goodness, that's a lot of points.
But week one, they barely beat Tulane 40-35. So they really have not looked that impressive. Texas A&M, they have a freshman quarterback playing. So, again, they're highly ranked, but, again, they're not looking very good. Cincinnati's a smaller school. They do have a pretty good quarterback, and so they're undefeated. They went, I believe, undefeated last year. So they're a good team, but they do play Notre Dame this year at Notre Dame. But speaking of Notre Dame, they haven't looked really good this year. They are 3-0, but their wins have not been very good. Purdue played them well this past week. They almost lost to Florida State. They almost lost to Toledo. They're not looking very good. Ohio State, they lost week one, of course. So, again, Clemson also lost, I think, week one. Or Ohio State lost week two. Clemson lost week one to Georgia. So, again, Clemson's offense, DJ hasn't looked very good. So, they've struggled. Georgia, they're 3-0. But, again, they will play Alabama. So, it's whether – I don't know. They don't play Alabama. They'll play Alabama in the SEC championship, though. So, they got to get past them if we really want to believe Georgia's a legit team. Oregon was the team that beat Ohio State. I think we talked about that last week.
We did.
So Oregon's looking like a good team. They beat Ohio State. They're 3-0. So they're looking like a good team. So Penn State's all right. They got to play Ohio State or Iowa. So I don't know how they'll be. But, yeah, that's all. College football, there's no really great teams, and maybe that's good for us because we don't know who's going to be the final four teams and going week to week. So looking at this next week, Notre Dame plays Wisconsin, two ranked teams. So that should be a good game. If I was able to go up to Wisconsin, I would definitely try to go to that game. But yeah, that's looking at the rest of the games. None of them are looking too good. It's just ranked teams playing unranked teams, which I'm not saying teams can't lose. There could be some upsets this next week, but nothing that really. Texas A&M plays a 3-0 number 16 Arkansas team, so that might be a good game. I'm going to a bachelor party on Saturday, so. I don't know how much I'll be able to watch. I haven't really got to watch football because I'm always busy on Saturday, Sundays, which kind of stinks. So that's why Thursday night, Sunday night, and Monday night I turn on the games. But because the games go so late, I just get tired. So
These old guys.
Yeah, I am old. But, like I said, University of Iowa, they're ranked 5th in the nation. So I'm really hoping, man. I would love to see Sam Laporta win a national championship. So I'm rooting for him. Like I said, maybe when I get off this podcast, I might go order his jersey. I have it open in my phone on the website. I think it's like $89. Not too bad. I just got to select buy and get it ordered. So. But that is all we have. We talked about NFL and college football, so I really hope for those who listened, I really hope you got a good episode that you can listen to on the way to work, church, on the way to, maybe listen to it at work, just be careful because I did say, I think I said a cuss word once. So, again, just be wary around who you're listening to it with. That is all we have, Logan. It was great talking to you again, and
Kyle, as always, great. Yeah, guys, have a great night and be safe out there.